Welcome to another exciting episode on the Professional Edge. My name's Sean Todd, tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner, host here on the Professional Edge for north of 5 years. We have several items that I feel as a listener here on the Professional Edge, you should actually take observation of. So that's why we're titling this session Financial Observations. Paying attention to the market. We saw the Fed reduce interest rates by 25 basis points, and you as listeners have some money stashed away in the money market account. I know you do, or you put some money in the CDs when the Fed kept the rates up, and you were close to 5% on some CDs, and now it's moderated down to 4%. And now you got to go a 30-month CD for a 4% YPR. So when we look at that, or APR, I don't know why I'm so tongue-tied, but stay with me. So with that, the Fed has reduced interest rates by 25 basis points, and they have indicated, or they are sort of projecting, maybe 2 more interest rate cuts. So what does that actually do to you as a listener here on the Professional Edge? Well, it's a financial observation. Now, when we see the observation, sort of like a stop sign, we know what to do. We come up, we pause the car, stop, look both ways, proceed through the intersection. Well, it's the same thing with finances in your portfolio. What's the observation? A 25 basis point cut in the federal funds rate. So what does that say? Well, savings rates are going to decline. So the amount that your money market is going to be paying you, that you've stashed some cash, and yes, there is a record number of dollars stashed in money market and CDs because of those rates we have not seen for the better part of 7-8 years, where the Fed took those rates to. So with that in mind, now we're edging down back into 3% rate of return. Well, if inflation is at 2.5 to 3 and 4, we've seen as high as 7 and 8% these past couple of years. Well, then are you going to continue to save your money and lose the purchasing power safely? That's a financial observation. So if you have that CD that's coming due, a lot of individuals, the majority of CDs come due in this last quarter. So if you, as a listener here on the Professional Edge, have that CD that's coming up, make sure you stop at the bank or you call the bank and say, do not automatically roll this over for another CD, because you will not get the same level of interest. You're going to get what I call significantly less. And if you get a 3% CD rate, well, inflation is 3.5, so you are slowly losing money safely. So if you want to express or understand what your alternatives are, please give us a call at 877, we got rid of that number. Let's go with 404-250-9798. That number again is 404-250-9798. That rings into our office here in Atlanta, but we can meet with clients. We just had a meeting with a client out in California, of all things. They listened to the podcast that we have called Professional Edge. And then they reached out and we had a Zoom call, and guess what? They're coming on board with our financial advisory practice. So that's pretty exciting. There is no boundaries. So the financial observation is you have a CD coming due. It's maturing. Evaluate what your renewal rate is going to be. If it's 3.5% or less, then I would strongly recommend doing something in the alternative, because you are actually losing purchasing power safely. So there are other avenues. Yes, they're in equities. They're not just a cash or a money market account, but the yield can be anywhere from 7 to 7.5%, pretty steady Eddie. One position you might want to do is some corporate bonds. Those are available. Treasuries, those are very high, long length treasuries, like 30-year. And we've seen those on the TV, the CNBC. They tout what that 30-year treasury rate is. And you got to think of it as a teeter-totter. So The value of the bond is on one side and the interest rate is on the other. So if the Fed says that they are potentially going to cut interest rates another 2 times or another 50 basis points, well, the left side is the interest rate and that's going down. Well, the other side, the value is going up. So the longer you are on the maturity range, then the more price appreciation you're going to get. So, but if you don't like that volatility and there's no guarantee that the Fed is going to actually act and make those other 25 basis point adjustments times 2 for a total of 50% adjustment, well, then we have that. So there's no guarantee. So we're going to stay close to the fulcrum in that teeter-totter. And therefore, we would go with short-term duration bonds. That means bonds that have a duration, meaning under a 2-year maturity. So if the interest rates just stay where they are, then there's not a great fluctuation in the value of those bonds. And we hold them to maturity within the fund, and therefore the principal gets paid, and we continue to earn that interest until they are actually mature. So that's something to strongly consider. It's not as safe as cash, we know that, or not safe as money market. A lot of people love that safety of the FDIC insurance, which I can appreciate, but again, it doesn't make financial sense. The financial observation is to lose money safely and slowly. Now, when interest rates were 4 up to 5% on a CD, absolutely, everyone loaded the backed up the truck and just loaded up with those CDs. And that's why we have this record number of money market accounts and CDs, and those are maturing. People locked in the 2-year, 3-year CD. Well, now's the maturity date. And the renewal risk is that interest rates will be lower, and that's actually what we're coming into account with, is your reinvestment date risk. So if you want to take a different avenue or a different approach, we welcome the opportunity to sit down with you either at the Cunningham Center up here in Atlanta if you want to take on the Atlanta traffic that we are known for throughout the world. And with that, you would give our office a call at 404-250-9798. That number again, 404-250-9798. So what other financial observation do we have? Well, if the Fed says that we are reducing rates by 25 basis points, then that has a direct impact on housing. How is that? Well, the cost of money becomes less. Now, are we going to get down to that 3% mark where a lot of our housing got refinanced and purchases were made at 3.25, and those individuals which are in these large homes, the boomers, and now they're empty nesters, well, they can't really afford to get out of that very inexpensive mortgage rate, that 3%. So it basically has put a layer of ice, chilled the market significantly, because they don't want to get out of that 3% mortgage. And recently it was as high as 6.5%, 7% on a mortgage rate. So that sort of froze the housing market, and buyers didn't want to really lock in a 7% interest rate or 6.5% interest rate. So they're on the sidelines. They don't want to buy and have a mortgage that's at 7% because they hear their parents have a mortgage at 3%. And they're like, well, I'm not going to pay nearly 2.5 times what my parents are paying for a mortgage. And with that higher mortgage rate, well, then the cost of borrowing goes up, and therefore you can actually afford less of a home. So that's the other financial observation. When these interest rates cut, then the mortgage rates decline, which then entices more buyers into the market. So we're seeing that shift, and especially if the Fed drops another 50 basis points, 25 each time over the next 6 months, then that will actually make the housing market escalate. We'll see more activity. There will be more traction. And we all know when a person buys a home, that's the very first thing they do. But then for the next 5 years, all they do is spend because they're converting that house to their family home. So they redecorate, they blow out a wall, put on a new deck, put some new windows in, buy some new appliances, redo a bathroom. So it's this continuous spend. And yes, that does help the economy. So in your financial observations, are you in your portfolio going to be able to take advantage of that shift in consumer demand? Well, that's the financial observation that we are telling you here to tune into on what you need to possibly do within your portfolio. And yes, we sit down with individuals, complimentary consultation, and evaluate their portfolio to make sure that their accumulation of assets is on track. Depending on when they want to retire, is it 3 years out, 5 years out, 15 years out, what level of risk that they have, because a lot of individuals have never done an objective risk analysis on their portfolio. They just sort of, I like some Home Depot, I like some Coca-Cola, I like Aflac, I'm going to get some S&P 500 index over here, and it's just this craziness and nothing is melded together. And we ask some questions, how did you get that? Oh, I inherited that from my grandmother and I've just held on to it. And you look at the rate of return on that investment and it is just abysmal. Sometimes it's good, a lot of times it's not. And they hold on to it for sentimental reasons, but it's costing them financially. So if you're that person and you need that objective analysis, do give our office a call at 404-250-9798. That number again is 404-250-9798. And I appreciate you listening in to The Professional Edge. If you miss a radio show aired every Sunday at WDAK down here in Columbus, you can always go to any podcast and look up Professional Edge. You'll see my adoring picture right there, and you can cue this in. And if you hear something pretty cool and you want to send that off to one of your colleagues or a friend or a family member that's out of state, do so. It's only going to help them. My name's Sean Todd, tax attorney, CPA, certified financial planner, host here on The Professional Edge. More coming up next session.
With today's financial markets, are you getting the personal and professional attention you and your money deserve? Clients of estate management counselors benefit from having one set of professionals advise them on their tax, estate planning, and investment advice. We call that the Professional Edge. Sean Todd is a tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. With over 15 years' experience, he welcomes the opportunity to assist you in preparing for retirement, implement effective tax planning strategies, and to help you properly plan your estate. His radio show, The Professional Edge, is aired weekly on Sundays at 9 a.m. If you're interested in meeting with Sean, call his office at 877-654-9798. That's 877-654-9798. Do you want to feel more confident about making the right investment, tax, and estate planning decisions? Today, these decisions are more complex than ever. Have you thought about working with a professional advisor and not sure who to turn to? Not sure what qualifies one to be an advisor? Sean Todd is more than qualified as a tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. Sean is with Estate Management Counselors. Estate Management Counselors operates as an independent fee-only investment advisory firm. They're dedicated to gaining a personal understanding of their clients' objectives and implementing professional counsel and advice to achieve those objectives. So take a second to talk with Sean Todd to learn how you can benefit from their multidisciplinary practice where they coordinate their clients' legal, tax, and investment strategies into one comprehensive and integrated plan to enhance and protect their clients' financial security. You can reach Estate Management Counselors and speak with Sean Todd by calling 1-877-654-9798. That's 1-877-654-9798.